Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode of the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. Dear friends, we're on part 17, studying our last section in the study of the Blessed Bab. So, dear friends, without any further ado, we'll have our opening prayer. Thank you so much.
O God, my God, I beg of thee, by the ocean of thy healing, and by the splendors of the day star of thy grace, and by thy name, through which thou didst subdue thy servants, and by the pervasive power of thy most exalted word, and the potency of thy most august pen, and by thy mercy that hath preceded the creation of all who are in heaven and on earth, to purge me with the waters of thy bounty from every affliction and disorder, and from all weakness and feebleness. Thou seest, O my Lord, thy suppliant waiting at the door of thy bounty, and him who hath set his hopes on thee, clinging to the cord of thy generosity. Deny him not, I beseech thee, the things he seeketh from the ocean of thy grace and the day star of thy loving kindness. Powerful art thou to do what pleases thee. There is none other God save thee, the ever forgiving, the most generous. Baha'u'llah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, dear friends, and that was a beautiful prayer for all of our dear friends and loved ones that are ailing and sick, and as we have to remember them in our prayers and pray to Baha'u'llah that his healing balm will assist them and bring healing to them. Thank you so much. Dear friends, we're going to get back into it. I'm so excited to be with you tonight. So tonight we're going to pick back up in our study of the Advent of Divine... Nah, that was a test.
Yeah, it was a test.
That's right.
You
We're not
failed.
studying the Advent of Divine Justice. We're studying the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, right? So we're
Right.
studying the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. And where do you find the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah? That's right. It's in the World Order of Baha'u'llah, right? So the World Order of Baha'u'llah is selected letters of the Beloved Guardian. And how many letters did the Beloved Guardian write in the World Order of Baha'u'llah? Anyone off the top of their head? No?
3.
A little more than that. Keep going, Miss Claudia.
I've forgotten.
Okay, 7.
7.
Okay, so there was the World Order of Baha'u'llah. Okay, that's 1. Then there's the World Order of Baha'u'llah further considerations. That's number 2. Okay. Then there's the goal of a new world order. That's number 3. Okay. Then there's the golden age of the cause of Baha'u'llah. That's number 4. America and the Most Great Peace is number 5. The Dispensation of Baha'u'llah is number 6. And the final one is, then the 7th one is the unfoldment of world civilization. So 7 letters, okay? And they are all found in the World Order of Baha'u'llah. So 7 letters. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the longest of these is the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, okay? And the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah is broken up into subsections, okay? So we're just, we finished the section on His Holiness Baha'u'llah, and now we're finishing up the section on the Bab, okay? So now tonight, we'll be studying the paragraphs 62 through 67, okay? 62 through 67. And if you're saying, Ehsan, where is paragraph 62 start? So if you have your Dispensation of Baha'u'llah or your World Order of Baha'u'llah, it's paragraph 62 starts on page 126 at the top. It says, dearly beloved friends, dearly beloved friends. I love that. The Beloved Guardian always starts with this transitionary opening. It's like, so he's been going on, hitting his points one after another. And then he's like, dearly beloved friends, like what a master orator the Beloved Guardian was. So he's now transitioning to a next statement. Okay, So that's where we are, 62 through all the way to 67, the concluding paragraph of this section on the Blessed Bob. Okay, so let us get back into it. I'm going to share my screen so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. Okay, this is in our study, this is part 17. Okay, here we go. So, dear friends, this is the paragraph set that we're going to be covering, hopefully, and maybe even finish tonight. This is on paragraph 62 through 67. The themes that will be covered tonight is the significance of the Blessed Bob's reference to himself, as well as the relationship between the twin revelations. Okay, this is a very interesting concept, the relationship between the twin revelations. So these are the major concepts in these paragraphs 62 through 67. Okay, so let us read these and then we can start going into it in much greater detail. Okay. So the first paragraph, I'll read this one, and then we'll go around. Here we go, dear friends. Dearly beloved friends, so resounding a praise, so bold an assertion, issued by the pen of Baha'u'llah in so weighty a work, are fully re-echoed in the language in which the source of the Babi revelation has chosen to clothe the claims he himself has advanced. I am the mystic Fane, the Bab thus proclaims his station in the Qayyum al-Asma, which the hand of omnipotence hath reared. I am the lamp which the finger of God hath lit within its niche and caused to shine with deathless splendor. I am the flame of that supernal light that glowed upon Sinai in the gladsome spot and lay concealed in the midst of the burning bush. O Quratul Ain, he addressing himself in that same commentary exclaims, I recognize in thee none other except the great announcement, the announcement voiced by the concourse on high. By this name I bear witness, they that circle the throne of glory have ever known thee. With each and every prophet whom we have sent down in the past, he further adds, we have established a separate covenant concerning the remembrance of God and his day, manifest in the realm of glory and through the power of truth are the remembrance of God and his day before the eyes of the angels that circle his mercy seat. Should it be our wish, he again affirms, it is in our power to compel through the agency of but one letter of our revelation, the world and all that is therein to recognize, in less than a twinkling of an eye, the truth of our cause. All right, and our next reader, Miss Luann, are you available to read?
I'll do my best.
Excellent. Thank you, Miss Luann.
I am the primal point. The Bab thus addresses Muhammad Shah from the prison fortress of Makul, from which have been generated all created things. I am the countenance of God, whose splendor never can be obscured, the light of God, whose radiance can never fade. All the keys of heaven God hath chosen to place on my right hand, and all the keys of hell on my left. I am one of the sustaining pillars of the primal word of God. Whosoever hath recognized me hath known all that is true and right, and hath attained all that is good and seemly. The substance wherewith God hath created me is not the clay out of which others have been formed. He hath conferred upon me that which the worldly wise can never comprehend, nor the faithful discover. Should a tiny ant, the Bob, wishing to stress the limitless potentialities latent in his dispensation, characteristically affirms desire in this day to be possessed of such power as to be able to unravel the abstruse and most bewildering passages of the Quran. Its wish will no doubt be fulfilled inasmuch as the mystery of the eternal might vibrates within the innermost being of all created things. If so helpless a creature is Abdul Baha's comment on so startling an affirmation can be endowed with so subtle a capacity, how much more efficacious, thank you, must be the power released through the liberal effusions of the grace of Baha'u'llah. Sorry.
Beautifully read, Miss Luann. Okay. And our next reader, Dear Tesfai, could you read this one?
All right. Paragraph 64. To these authoritative assertions and solemn declarations made by Baha'u'llah, and the Bab must be added Abdul Baha's own incontrovertible testimony. He is the appointed interpreter of the utterances of both Baha'u'llah and the Bab, corroborates not by implication, but in clear and categorical language, both in his tablets and in his testament, the truth of the statements to which I have already referred.
Thank you very much, dear Tesfai.
Thank you.
Ashan, I had one question.
Please.
On the paragraph before, he makes reference to all the keys of heaven on the right hand and the keys of hell on my left. That's an unusual reference, isn't it, for him?
Sure. That is symbolic language. It's also referencing mythology, symbolism, and stories of that are in pre-Islamic stories of talking about these heaven and hell and concepts that of the judgment day, that these are the keys. And so this, I can send you references to that, but it's even pre-Islamic, and these are per se mythologically type of stories type of things.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I have another things from the paragraphs that I read. This is
Please.
Abdul Baha is to be the authorized interpreter of the Bab in Baha'u'llah, it says, because at that time, he is too young at that time. How can he interpret the Bab's writing? What does it mean?
One more time. I was just moving it back. I apologize.
All right, here it says in paragraph 64 that Abdul Baha is the authorized interpreter, appointed interpreter of the utterance of Baha'u'llah and the Bab. That's what it says. So how can he do the Bab, because he's too young at that time?
That when this is written, who is writing this? The
It's
beloved
Chogi Effendi.
Effendi.
The beloved guardian is writing this, right? So the
Yeah.
beloved guardian is stating that Abdul Baha is the incontrovertible, appointed interpreter of not only the writings of Baha'u'llah, as well as the writings of the Blessed Bab. So he thinks Abdul Baha is not only the interpreter of Baha'u'llah, as well as the interpreter of the Bab. So yes, when so the Blessed Bab, when was he martyred? 1850, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And
At
Abdul
that
Baha,
time, Abdul Baha is young.
exactly.
And yeah.
Because
So
so Abdul Baha was still a young man at that age. And so, but I'm not saying he was the interpreter at 6 years old. Okay.
yeah, that's my question.
Okay. So, but he was the interpreter. He was the appointed interpreter, his whole life, in the sense of, as he grew up, he was as a young man, and all his writings have the same weight. When in the writings of his writings, he has the same power to interpret the writings of the Bab, as well as he has the same authority to interpret the writings of Baha'u'llah. This is what the beloved guardian is saying. Okay, I'm not saying at the age of
At the
60.
time.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying at the age of 6 years old he's writing, his writings, but I'm saying whenever any of his writings, if he wrote on, the Blessed Bab, he was also considered an appointed interpreter also of the writings of the Bab, as well as the writings of Baha'u'llah. Because as you all know, Abdul Baha passed in 1921. So well after the passing of the Blessed Bab, as well as, and it doesn't even matter that, Abdul Baha was, per se alive during the period of the Bab. The beloved guardian is also appointed, interpreter also of the writings, so he also has that authoritative interpreter title. So he wasn't alive during the time of the Bab, but he is also authoritative interpreter. You see that?
Yeah,
So-
because the way that I understand it, because he has the authority, because he has the Holy Spirit, and then Baha'u'llah is a manifestation of God for this day after the Bab, because he is the main one and the Bab is a gate. So that means, and then when Abdul Baha is the interpreter of the center of the covenant and the interpreter of the Baha'u'llah's writings, that means he has the authority also to go back and see the Babs and then all the past religions, I think, maybe because he is telling about Jesus, about everybody, and then all of them, because he has all the light of all energies, of all knowledges of all the past.
Sure, yeah. Abdul
Yeah,
Baha,
because he
Abdul
don't
Baha,
refer anything.
when
Yeah.
we will get much more into detail in the next part into Sirullah. Abdul Baha is a title. Abdul Baha is the servant of Baha. He's a title. And to me, Ehsan, Abdul Baha is truly the mystery of God. We will never, ever understand the station of Abdul Baha. And he is a perfect creation of Baha'u'llah. And for the purpose of being able to harness the ocean of the revelation and be able to be that center of the covenant and be absolutely humble and present the most perfect example of what it means to be a Baha'i to the world. He is a perfect creation. And when we get into our next paragraph sets, Because
That's why
this
he was born in the same thing like in 1844.
Sure,
There
exactly.
is a mystery that he is coming up is to be on the purpose.
Absolutely. Okay. So this is paragraph 64. Thank you very much, dear Tesfai. So we're going to carry on and go to our next paragraph. Paragraph 65. My dear friend Doug, if you could kindly read this one for us.
In a tablet addressed to a Baha'i in Mazindaran, in which he unfolds the meaning of a misinterpreted statement attributed to him regarding the rise of the Son of Truth in this century. He sets forth briefly but conclusively what should remain for all time our true conception of the relationship between the two manifestations associated with the Baha'i dispensation. In making such a statement, he explains, I had in mind no one else except the Bab and Baha'u'llah, the character of whose revelations it had been my purpose to elucidate. The revelation of the Bab may be likened to the sun, its station corresponding to the first sign of the zodiac, the sign Aries, which the sun enters at the vernal equinox. The station of Baha'u'llah's revelation, on the other hand, is represented by the sign Leo, the sun's midsummer and highest station. By this is meant that this holy dispensation is illumined with the light of the Sun of Truth, shining from its most exalted station, and in the plenitude of its resplendency, its heat and glory.
Beautifully read. Thank you, dear Doug. And what an awesome analogy here to show the analogy of these twin revelations. All right. Okay, our next reader, dear Miss Yuda, could you read this one for us?
The Bab, the Exalted One, Abdul Baha, more specifically confirms in another tablet, is the morn of truth, the splendor of whose light shines throughout all regions. He is also the harbinger of the most great light, the Abha luminary. The blessed beauty is the one promised by the sacred books of the past, the revelation of the source of light that shone upon Mount Sinai, whose fire gloweth in the midst of the burning bush. We are one and all servants of thy threshold, and stand each as a lowly keeper at thy door. Every proof and prophecy is his still more emphatic warning, every manner of evidence, whether based on reason or on the text of the scriptures and traditions, are to be regarded as centered in the person of Baha'u'llah and the Bab. In them is to be found their complete fulfillment.
Beautifully read, Miss Yuda. Thank you. And the final paragraph of the section of the Blessed Bab is paragraph 67. And dear Farzad John, if you could kindly read this one for us.
Sure, Allah.
Allah.
And finally, in his will and testament, the repository of his last wishes and parting instructions, he in the following passage specifically designed to set forth the guiding principles of Baha'i belief, sets the seal of his testimony on the Bab's dual and exalted station, the foundation of the belief of people of Baha. May my life be offered up for them, is this. His Holiness, the Exalted One, the Bab, is the manifestation of the unity and oneness of God, and the forerunner of the ancient beauty, Baha'u'llah. His Holiness, the Abha beauty, Baha'u'llah. May my life be offered up as a sacrifice for his steadfast friends, is the supreme manifestation of God and the dayspring of his most divine essence. All others, he significantly adds, are servants unto him and do his bidding.
Thank you, dear Farasajan. Thank you. So, dear friends, to recap, okay, the dispensation of Baha'u'llah is presenting fundamental verities of what it means to be a Baha'i. This is what the beloved guardian stated in the opening of the dispensation of Baha'u'llah. It's right there, the top of page 100, okay? Page 100, the very top, it says to strive to obtain a more adequate understanding of the significance of Baha'u'llah's revelation, right? And to present these truths of this stupendous revelation. It is my unalterable conviction remain the first obligation and the object of the constant endeavor of each one of its loyal adherents. So, dear friends, this is what the dispensation of Baha'u'llah is. For every one of us to strive to obtain a clearer understanding of this revelation of Baha'u'llah. This is what the beloved guardian is presenting in the dispensation of Baha'u'llah. And in this paragraph set, where the beloved guardian is trying to present and give a clearer picture of who the blessed Bab is, okay? His station, as well as his relation to Baha'u'llah. Because also, remember, the blessed Bab came so close in the time period to Baha'u'llah that many people didn't know the relationship. And they got confused, even the Baha'is themselves. And so they would write things and cause confusion. And obviously covenant breakers and other people would write things, and Westerners, they didn't know who the Bab was, and so it was confusing. And even more interesting in our next section, when we get to Abdul Baha, there's even more confusion who Abdul Baha was. And because the beloved guardian talks about the friends having such confusion, for interest of the friends, I tried to compile all the sources that I could find of the confusion, just to show how per se confusing it was to the friends of who Abdul Baha was. And so the same was with the blessed Bab, and also the relationship to Baha'u'llah. So this is here the beloved guardian in these short paragraphs set is proclaiming in unequivocal language the station of the blessed Bab. He is a manifestation of God in his own right, as well as he has this dual and exalted station. This is very pivotal, and this is the last paragraph in this section on the blessed Bab. It says the foundation of the belief of the people of Baha. So if everything as a Baha'i, whatever we believe, right? This is the very foundation of what we proclaim as a Baha'i. The very foundation is this: His Holiness, the Exalted One, the Blessed Bab, is the manifestation of the unity and oneness of God and the forerunner. So not only is he a manifestation, right, in his own right, but his second station is the forerunner of the ancient beauty, Baha'u'llah, Jamal al-Qadar, the blessed beauty, ancient beauty, right? So he is the forerunner of Baha'u'llah. His Holiness, the Abha Beauty, Baha'u'llah, may my life be offered up as a sacrifice for his steadfast friends, is the supreme manifestation of God and the dayspring of his most divine essence. And we scroll back to that incredible and awesome analogy that we shared earlier, and that was talking about it was in paragraph 65, the signs of the zodiac, right? What an incredible analogy in paragraph 65, talking about the signs of the zodiac, the relationship of the interrelationship between the blessed Bab and Baha'u'llah. He says, I had in mind no one else except the Bab and Baha'u'llah, the character of whose revelations it had been my purpose to elucidate. See this in a tablet that was addressed to a Baha'i in Mazandaran. Mazandaran is the province where Baha'u'llah is from. So this is a tablet that was revealed in that area. And so to a Baha'i from Mazandaran. And this is what has been written. He says, the revelation of the Bab may be likened to the sun, its station corresponding to the first sign of the zodiac, the sign Aries, which the sun enters at the vernal equinox. Does anyone know when the vernal equinox is? Nowruz, right? That's the vernal equinox. So
Yes.
right then is vernal equinox, March 20th period. So it's spring. And so the sun at that point is life is emerging. It's springtime, new life, right? So, but in this sense, if that is the period of spring, we know that the sun is per se moving to a higher point when it's much hotter. We all know that living in Texas, spring is nice weather, but it's not the full blast of the sun. And the full blast of the sun is in summer. And so we know which the sun enters at that point in summer. So the station of Baha'u'llah's revelation, on the other hand, is represented by the sign Leo, the sun's midsummer and highest station. By this is meant that this holy dispensation is illumined with the light of the sun of truth, shining from its most exalted station and the plenitude of its resplendency, its heat and glory. So this is the relationship between these manifestations of God, the intensity of the revelations. Okay.
May I say something here?
Please, dear, testify.
Yeah, the way I understand, the relationship between Baha'u'llah and the Bab is a very unique. Like if you see, we became Baha'i because we don't know Baha'u'llah, just by the spirit. That's why we became Baha'i, and we are burning our hearts for the love of this revelation. And we didn't see him, we didn't know them. And we don't know either he accepts us, but we accept him. Now, when you see the two manifestations, they never met face to face in life, but they have a connection with the spirit of the Holy Spirit. They come together in the spirit, and then they are doing all whatever their job. And then after that, now we have the story and all these writings to come to us. So that's the way I understand it, because the Bab and Baha'u'llah, they never met face to face. Am I right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so this is spirit only. And then the second thing is that this one is a kind of question, but I don't know if you know it very well or not, but is this the zodiac that the Chinese and all these things they are, doing is it right, or is it true that they are telling you all this zodiac about so many things they are telling about this zodiac? I don't know.
I'll send you, the beloved guardian wrote on that and said, as Baha'is, we do not subscribe to astrology. But
yeah,
this is astrological signs, not astrology in the sense of advice or things that people per se what do they call horoscopes and things like that.
Yeah, horoscopes
Exactly.
and palm readings and all these things.
Something that I want to share is the manifestations of God are one and the same, okay? In the sense, they are one and the same, yet they are also different, okay? This is an incredible topic of that whole books have been written on, okay? They're one and the same, yet they're also different. Now,
And
so
degrees, yeah.
so how is the Blessed Bab and Baha'u'llah one and the same? They're both animated by the same most great spirit, okay? And this is another incredible thing. They are both, per se, alive at the same time, okay? But the most great spirit breathed into them at the same, they were both animated by the most great spirit. But they also had a human spirit. One was, Sayyid Ali Muhammad, one was Mirza Hussein Ali. One was Baha'u'llah, one was the Blessed Bab. Two different individuals, two human realities, two different physical realities, but animated by the most great spirit, the same most great spirit. And you follow? So this is why they are twin manifestations of God and connected in that sense, okay? This is unique. It has never happened before in the history of faith. Who knows, in the next period, there might be 3 manifestations of God at that point in time. We never know. It might, so we don't know what is going to come in the future. But the reality is, what we know is what has happened. And these manifestations of God, per se, emanated from, and all of them emanate from the same source, okay? And they speak with the same tongue. So that is a very important concept. This is a fundamental belief as a Baha'i, and this is called the principle of progressive revelation, that they're all coming from the same source and speak the same tongue. So this is really what the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah is. It's presenting the fundamental truths of what the faith stands for. Okay, moving on, dear friends. So in these last few paragraphs in this section, the beloved guardian Shaykh Effendi is now further illustrating the station and power of the Blessed Bab. Before, he was also talking about just some of the proofs of the incredibleness of the station of the Blessed Bab. I list a few. One, if you recall, his incredible power of how the writings just poured from his pen was not one of his proofs, right? That the writings just poured from the pen of the Blessed Bab without any thought or preparation. And so this is just the beloved guardian presents that as one of the proofs. Another one of the proofs that the beloved guardian presents in this section, he says the beloved guardian says, look at the followers of the Blessed Bab and how they have been transformed. They're examples, and he lists, some of them, such as Vahid, right? He says, this individual of Vahid. So he lists in this section, one after another, in proofs of the station and powers of the Blessed Bab. And so in this last paragraph set, he is also further illustrating the station as well as the power of the Blessed Bab on the statements made by the Blessed Bab himself as well as Abdul Baha. So this is this last paragraph. Oh, okay, here we go. The Blessed Bob refers to himself as the mystic Fane. Okay, I was going to ask the class, does anyone know what what a Fane is? But I put it here anyway.
Here.
That was yes, Miss Claudia. Do you know what the Fane means?
A temple.
There
English
you
word
go.
is
There you
hakal.
go. I was actually going to pop quiz the class, but I actually had it in the writings. So it's a temple. It's actually another word for Haikal. You know, the Surat al-Haikal, the Surah Haikal. So this is when he says, I am the mystic Fane, right? What a cool proclamation, right? The Blessed Bob says, he's saying, I am the temple of God, right? He's saying, so this is what he is saying. I am the mystic temple. And so the Bob calls himself the great announcement. And so if you look at the announcement, the great announcement, it's the announcement is in the Quran. This is a reference to not only the Quran, but also the Bible, talking about the second coming, the announcement by the bugles, as well as the trumpets, and the remembrance of God, the coming, and all of these. So this is a reference in the Holy Scriptures to the upheaval, the great events related to the day of judgment, the second coming, the day of gathering, the ingathering of the meeting of God. He says, I am the great announcement. So when we say we're at the end of days, right? You've heard of this. We're in the end game. When did that start? 1844 was the start of the end game. And so that was when the great remembrance of God proclaimed himself and said, I am the promised one of God. And so, yeah, I was reading last night the story of Mullah Hussein to my eldest daughter, and she was totally wowed by the encounter of Mullah Hussein and how the transformation of Mullah Hussein, hearing the Qayyum al-Asma, the Surah of Joseph, and my daughter was hearing, this encounter, and at the very end, where the Mullah Hussein says, I felt as, I couldn't sleep. I suddenly felt I could conquer the world, and, I was but a man before, and now suddenly, I felt like I should rush out and champion, everyone. My little one was so excited, because the energy that Mullah Hussein suddenly felt, and the power and transformation that took over Mullah Hussein, and that he suddenly wanted to rush out and tell everyone. My little one said, Daddy, I want to do that too. And I was like, good job, my baby. But the point is that she wanted that transformation. But I said, Mullah Hussein couldn't do that at that point in time, because 17 others had to independently come and find the Blessed Bob. But now that has happened, we have that privilege to announce. We have that privilege to open our mouths. And so it's upon us to open our mouths and tell them about this day of God. So other things in this paragraph set that I wanted to mention to all of you tonight. Checking my time, we're doing great. The Blessed Bob is referring to himself. These are all incredible titles, and they're all also in the Quran also, and also in the Hadith. And I cannot reference every one of them, but I encourage you also to search for them. He refers to himself as the lamp which the finger of God hath lit within its niche and caused to shine with deathless splendor. So light itself is one of the many symbols that is throughout the writings. And when I say writings, I'm not just talking about the writings of Baha'u'llah or the writings of the Blessed Bob. I'm talking about the compendium writings of faith of God. Okay? So light itself light is symbolic of not only knowledge, but the most great spirit. Okay. So the light is symbolic of the most great spirit and the manifestation of God. So the Bab refers to himself as the lamp, which the finger of God hath lit within its niche and caused to shine with deathless splendor. So what is deathless splendor? It ain't gonna die. So it's eternal, right? So this light, it's not going to go out. And that's another cool analogy. I remember when we were studying Advent of Divine Justice, you said, this is a day that shall not be followed by night, right? A day that shall not be followed by night. And so this is the lamp, which is not going to go out. It will shine with deathless splendor. And the flame of that supernal light that glowed upon Sinai in the gladsome spot. So these are titles of the Blessed Bab. And you can see how he is referenced, prophecy per se, in his titles, in these titles, because he is now referencing himself as the eternal flame on Mount Sinai. He is saying, I am that eternal flame that glowed upon Sinai, talking about the most great spirit. You follow? So he is saying, I am that eternal flame of that supernal light that glowed upon Sinai in that most gladsome spot. And then the Blessed Bab further is referencing himself. And look, capital H, whenever we this capitals is talking about the most great spirit, okay? So the Blessed Bab is now referring to the most great spirit himself as the primal point. This is a little hard. One of these beautiful Persians, more Persian than I am, I'm not, I wasn't really born with a Persian tongue. Mina Jan, could you say this one for us, if you could kindly? Yeah, just
Allah Apa.
Allah Apa.
I just follow you over the YouTube because my sorry, my time, the job when I come here almost is 7:30, 7:45, but I follow you all the classes on the YouTube. I'm glad you have YouTube.
Thank you, Mina Chan. Mina Chan, could you say Nuqtiya Ullah? Is that how you pronounce?
Yes, it's Noqteya Ula. Noqte, that means the period.
Point, the dot.
Point, yeah, point. Ula, that means very high.
Primal, the high.
So yeah, Noqteya Ula.
Nuqteya Ullah.
Noqteya Ula.
Okay, beautiful. See, that's why awesome to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, son.
Nuqteya Ullah. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mina Jan. So this is the title of the Blessed Bab, the Primal Point, okay, which was the title he adopted for himself, okay? So of all the titles he could have chosen for himself, he chose the Primal Point, which, and he adopted this title for himself in a tablet to Muhammad Shah. And according to His Holiness Abdul Baha, the intensity of the revelation of Baha'u'llah is greater than that of the revelation of the Bab. So we've already talked about this. And so this was again referenced in this paragraph set, talking in that reference to what are they called? These, not seasons, but the different astrological signs, Aries, and these astrological signs. So moving on. So the significance of the Bab's references to himself. Now in paragraph 62 to 63, the beloved guardian is citing a number of statements from the Blessed Bab on the greatness of his revelation. So this is, again, greatness of his revelation. And every one of these sets, which we're going to go through, okay, We've covered already Baha'u'llah. Now we're covering the Blessed Bab. Next, we cover His Holiness Abdul Baha, the central figures, right? Every one of them, we're going to find out the absolute greatness of these individuals, okay? And so the beloved guardian presents definitive and unequivocal proofs of their greatness, okay? So, and presents it one after another. So now, let us get into our first paragraph, paragraph 62. The Bab refers to himself as the mystic Fein. This is such an amazing language, the mystic Fein. It has been used in the Baha'i writings as a symbolic reference to the manifestations of God. So here, when he says, I am the mystic Fein, this is a reference to the addressing himself as I am a manifestation of God. A Fein is defined as a temple or any building dedicated to religion and translates into the word Heikal in both Arabic as well as Hebrew. And in Hebrew, Heikal means temple, particularly the first and second Jewish temples in Jerusalem. And in Arabic, in addition to the meaning of a Jewish or Christian temple, this word also means the body or form of something, and particularly the human body. So Baha'u'llah has written a tablet called the Suraya Heikal, right? The tablet of the temple, in which the primary sense of Heikal is a human body, particularly the body of the manifestation of God. So here the beloved guardian says, I am the mystic Fein, saying I am, per se, the body of the faith of God. In the sense, I am the manifestation of God. So it's a very bold, very powerful statement here. Okay. Mysticism is defined as an attempt to gain knowledge of real truth. See, because we're talking about mystic, right? So mysticism is defined as an attempt to gain knowledge of real truth and union with God through prayer and meditation. A mystic is defined as a person who seeks by prayer, meditation, and self-surrender to attain unity with God, or the absolute, and so to reach truths beyond human understanding. So there were many, per se, mystics back in the day, and they were attempting through prayer, meditation, and self-surrender to attain unity with God. Okay? As we all know, in the writings, is one of the fundamental truths already presented in the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah that says the unknowable essence is infinitely beyond our comprehension. It cannot even come close to us. So this aspect of attaining unity with God, whether it is on the mental level or spiritual level or any type of level, having that type of unity with God is impossible, okay? So that's aspect of mystical understanding is an impossibility. But in the sense of that seeking by prayer, meditation, as well as self-surrender to attain closer and closer and closer understanding. See, if you recall page 100 of the Advent of Divine Justice, I always think Advent of Divine Justice. That's what happens when you study Advent of Divine Justice too much. Of Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, page 100 of Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, okay? It says at the very top, to strive to obtain a more adequate understanding of the significance of Baha'u'llah's stupendous revelation. That is the ultimate goal of every Baha'i. This, the beloved guardian says, it is my unalterable conviction, remain what? the first obligation and the object of the constant endeavor of each one of its loyal adherents. So if I ask any one of my dear friends in this class, what is your first and ultimate objective? You know, your most important thing per se as a Baha'i, right? To strive to obtain a more adequate understanding of Baha'u'llah's stupendous. So how do we do that? And this is mystical in this sense. And because this is our journey through prayer, meditation, self-surrender. It is a spiritual journey. Okay?
You know,
So-
one of the most important things to motivate us is to be, we are accepted this beautiful phase and we are the chosen ones. So we need to move forward with happiness. And then we need to strive every day, because some of them, they can't come to get this knowledge and then they don't know about the mystery of this revelation. So we are the chosen and the great people, as long as we are accepting this revelation. So we have a lot of chances to investigate and growing and reading and keeping and do teaching and everything. So we need to motivate ourselves with happiness. And then we share this happiness to the rest of the world.
Sure, dear Tesfa. Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on. So now we get into this concept of the great announcement, where the Bab is in paragraph 62 is now calling himself the great announcement. The great announcement is a reference made in the Holy Scriptures to a time of upheaval, great events. It is also being referred to as the day of judgment, the day of gathering, the day of meeting God, and the day of resurrection. So I could have pulled so many references on this, but I didn't want to overwhelm you. So I've just pulled two, and these are from the Quran, okay? So this is from the Quran. This is from Surah 50, and these are the verses, okay? Chapter 50, verses 41 through 42, the first one. It says, "And listen for the day when the caller will call out from a place quite near, the day when they will hear a mighty blast. In very truth, that will be the day of resurrection. Who would be this caller? And where is this place that is quite near? In the past, the call came from the messenger." So there, in this, the day of remembrance of God, it will be a mighty blast. So this is, and then the second is, says, "And there shall be a blast on the trumpet, and all who are in the heaven and all who are on the earth shall expire, save whom God shall vouchsafe to live. Then shall there be another blast on it, and lo, arising they shall gaze around them, and the earth shall shine with the light of her Lord." So the first blast, two blasts, right? Isn't that cool? That's right there in the Quran. Twin messengers of God, right? So the first blast is the first remembrance of God, right? And the first blast is an announcement. Boom! Wake up, people, wake up. And the entire earth was shaken. And they were stunned, except those who God said, right, that were left to, and save those whom God shall vouchsafe to live. Then shall there be another blast. And what happens? Arising, they shall gaze around them, and the earth shall shine with the light of her Lord. Light of her Lord. Glory of God, right? Baha'u'llah. We are followers of the light. So this is, if this is all was written all in Arabic. And so in the if we look at the language, the world shall shine with the light of her Lord. And Baha'u'llah is the glory of God. The world will be illumined with the glory of Baha'u'llah.
I ask you something here?
Please.
Yeah, here is it says in the second one is to be from the Quran, you say that the trumpet, and then he says that heaven and all who are on the earth shall expire. That means, what does it mean that is to be heaven and the earth that shall all expire? Means, is it the past revelation that he's talking, or how would you understand that expire here?
So if you take it literally, where many literalists take it literally, they think when the blast, when the messenger would come, and the messenger of God appears and announces himself, and if you take it literally, he blasts on a trumpet, and everybody in heaven and on earth shall expire. Expire means they die. That's what it means. Okay? But what does it mean if you think of it symbolically? What does that mean?
So that means, the way I understand it, is to be the coming of the new revelation means it is not only for the earth, that's for the people that were here, it's also including the heaven for the spiritual world too. So the spiritual world and then the material world, for both of them. That's what I understand. I don't know if they have another way of looking, because he says that heaven on earth and for both shall expire means is to be the past one is to be no longer, and then now the new one is coming.
Well, remember, often the language here may not.
Yeah, I don't know,
Yes.
because maybe
Yeah. I'll let someone much wiser than myself. Doug, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think you're doing fine.
I'm stumbling over my own words. But the reality is that this is in reference to the twin manifestations coming, this great announcement, right? And we can see that there shall be a blast on the trumpet, and the announcement, the remembrance of God. And this aspect, and all who are in heaven and all on earth, it's not taking it, that, all the angels out in heaven, shall expire. How can an angel expire? They're already gone. It's to show that everyone, often when they say all who are in heaven and all on earth, it's, beautiful, flowery language to say everyone, okay? They shall expire. And we hear, when I say expire, it means that means die away. I mean that they're get lost. In other words, overwhelmed. It's not death. It's in the sense of physical death. They become so overwhelmed and lost and consumed in the awesomeness of the revelation that has come.
That's what I understand too.
Okay, so imagine that imagine you're just relaxing in the garden one day, and suddenly, lo and behold, the sun itself suddenly wants to descend out of the sky. It's 62 million miles away, and it suddenly says, one day, I'm tired of being so far from my beautiful little blue earth. I'm suddenly going to make an appearance. And it suddenly comes, today is, what is it, Wednesday. It's, it's now getting closer to 8:30. It suddenly descends out of the cosmos and suddenly is now 1 mile from the earth. And you were just relaxing in your garden, doing a little bit of gardening, and suddenly, boom, right there is the sun itself, okay? With all the heat and power and, intensity. This is the power of the manifestation of God. You see that? Now,
Yeah.
that is the intensity of the manifestation of God, right up in your face. And so this is the blast of the sun. You are consumed in the awesomeness of the power of the manifestation of God. You are nothing. You're just vaporized in the, and then, so you expire because you are nothing. You're dust in the presence of the manifestation of God. Then shall there be another blast. Isn't that cool? The second blast. And this is the announcement, Baha'u'llah. And then out of absolutely vaporization of the earth by the first manifestation, the intensity of that. And why is that happened? Spiritual cleansing and preparation for the most great announcement. Because remember, his title is the Great Announcement. He must be announcing something, right? So he is announcing the coming of the Mahdi. Remember, he's Qayyam. The Qayyam is announcing the Mahdi, the one foretold by all faith. So he is the bugler. So he is announcing and preparing and cleansing the whole earth, just like Noah prepared the earth, through the flood. He said the world is not, prepared per se, and so he cleansed the world. These are analogies. You see what I'm saying? So, and spirit on the spiritual level. So he, then he shall be another blast, and a rising shall gaze around them, and the earth shall shine with the light of her Lord. So talked a lot on that subject, but these are interesting analogies, metaphors. And so there are also many more prophecies. And I could have gone into pulled so many more, but I didn't want to overwhelm or also get entrenched in them, as they say, because there's so many. But regarding the advent of these two great manifestations of God in all the holy books, and in Islam, the majority of the followers believe that the promised ones are the Imam Mahdi as well as the Messiah. And in the Quran, the advent of the promised ones is referred to as the Great Announcement. So the announcement of the coming of these twin manifestations, the coming of the Imam Mahdi as well as the Messiah, is the Great Announcement. It's right there in Islam. And this is a recurring theme in the Quran, as about 5,000 out of the 6,200 verses of the Quran revolve around this issue. So if you have your cell phone and just do the what is 5,000 out of 6,200, you can see the percentage of the theme, how much it talks about this singular topic of the coming of the most great announcement, these manifestations of God coming. I mean, everything else is beyond tertiary. It's not even tertiary, beyond tertiary. I would say 70 to 80% of the whole of Quran is about the great announcement, the coming of the blessed Bab and Baha'u'llah. Yet you see how they've missed it, and so it's very interesting. So, but let's move on.
Sean,
Please.
I was going to say, I have a reference to this announcement and the blasting of the trumpet.
Please.
Maybe an oversimplification, but I have understood it to be the Bab was the great announcement, causing the great upheavals and the consternation, and Baha'u'llah was the trumpet blower with the first blast on the first day of Rizwan. He rolled up the old order and rolled out the new order. That is the first blast and the second blast. The first where everything expires, and the third where it's all made new. I mean, the second where it's all made new.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. And the announcements, every coming of these manifestations of God, they are blasting of the trumpets and the announcement of Baha'u'llah and the Resvan Garden, announcing himself, stating, I am the manifestation of God. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And so, and the rolling up of the old world order. Absolutely. Very good insight, Miss Claudia. Thank you so much for sharing. All right. Moving on. So, dear friends, this is a quote that we find in selections from the writings of the Blessed Bab. And we don't have a whole lot of the writings of the Blessed Bab in English. And so the primary translation in English authoritatively is in selections from the writings of the Bab. And most editions is a green edition. In the Baha'i writings, such events are all defined as the time when a manifestation of God appears. Baha'u'llah describes the resurrection as the rise of the manifestation of God to proclaim his cause. Furthermore, the Bab explains, what is meant by the day of resurrection is this, that from the time of the appearance of him who is the tree of divine reality, at whatever period and under whatever name, until the moment of his disappearance, is the day of resurrection. For example, from the inception of the mission of Jesus, may peace be upon him, till the day of his ascension was the resurrection of Moses. So the entire period of the life and ministry of the manifestation of God is considered the resurrection, the day of resurrection. So that is the period also known as the period of when it talks about when a manifestation of God appears. It's the day of resurrection. Baha'u'llah has also referred to his revelation as the great announcement. And so, Miss Claudia, as to your point, when you said the great announcement, you know, when you said the Blessed Bab was the first announcement, and Baha'u'llah is, you know, also the second trumpeter, he is also, Baha'u'llah refers to his revelation also as the great announcement. And in a tablet, he announces, by him who is the great announcement, the all-merciful is come invested with undoubted sovereignty. The balance hath been appointed, and all them that dwell on earth have been gathered together. He has also referred to his revelation as the day of judgment, but as a token of divine retribution upon those heedless ones. Their erroneous beliefs and pursuits have, in this day of judgment, been made clear and evident to every man of discernment and understanding. So again, he's referring to himself as the Lord of judgment. This is the day of judgment. And this, he is referring to himself as, this is the day of the great announcement. And so one and the same, the Blessed Bab, both announcing themselves as the great announcement. And there's another writing. You cannot distinguish the Bab and Baha'u'llah in that sense. They are one and the same. And so there's even a writing of the Blessed, the Beloved Guardian, that you even as a Baha'i, we should not even distinguish one hair of the Bab and Baha'u'llah. They are one and the same. And they're so carrying on, dear friends. So this is the significance of the Bab's references to himself. This is in the essence of divine light. Okay. And how earlier I talked about how many times light is used in the writings. And this is all in reference to this incredible paragraph 62. The Blessed Bab is referring to himself as the light of God in two contexts. And in the first instance, he states, I am the lamp which the finger of God hath lit within its niche and caused to shine with deathless splendor. This is a reference to the following verse from the Quran, in which the imagery of light is mentioned a number of times. So here is the reference. This is from Quran. God is the light of the heavens and the earth. His light is like a niche in which is a lamp. The lamp encased in glass, the glass, as it were, a glistening star. And from a blessed tree it is lighted, the olive neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would well nigh shine out, even though fire touched it not. It is a light upon light. God guideth whom he will to his light, and God setteth forth parables to men, for God knoweth well, God knoweth all things. I grew up in Scotland, and just sharing this anecdote, okay? And there were very few Baha'is when I was growing up. And my parents would buy, whenever they could go to conferences, they would buy Baha'i books, and we would have Baha'i books in the house. And one of them, when I was growing up, was a book by, I believe it's Mr. David Ruh, former Universal House of Justice member. And it was a wonderful children's book called Wonderful Lamp, okay?
Wonderland.
The Wonder Lamp. Yes, Miss Claudia. Do you recall this story? The Wonder
Oh,
Lamp.
yes. Oh, yes.
So it was called the Wonder Lamp, and it was a beautiful, beautiful story, and very beautifully illustrated too. And this is a story about this incredibly beautiful lamp. Very simple, but a beautiful lamp. And everyone loved it, and everyone enjoyed it, and it gave off light and life, and this everything grew around it, and the gardens, the flowers, the trees, everything grew beautiful. But then some people, seeing this lamp, they wanted to have it for themselves, and so then they took the lamp and they started making it, in their eyes, more beautiful. And they wanted to own the lamp. And they added things to it. And they added jewels and other things, and their own ideas and things. And they made the lamp, and everything they added to the lamp, which was pure and beautiful. What happened to the light? It started to go away. It started to dim. And eventually, everything that was growing and thriving off the light, this pure and beautiful light, started to die. And the world started to become dark and bleak and dead. Then, suddenly and magically, there was a renewal. And suddenly a new lamp appeared, and life emerged again. And it's a wonderful story. I mean, this is the story by, I think, Miss Claudia, did I restate it well or
Very well. There's one point I was going to bring out.
Please, Miss Claudia.
In the ornamentation that men added to the lamp were a number of veils. I think that was a significant, scarves or veils that they put around the lamp.
Absolutely. And these are all like veils of our own imaginings that per se block our minds from recognizing, our hearts recognizing the manifestation of God. And so this is really was a beautiful story, and written in the language for children, but with so much inner and deeper meaning. And even tying to this extract from the Quran right here, and which the blessed Bab is referring to himself as the light and lamp of God. You see this? So he's referencing himself as that lamp, the wonder lamp in this children's story. So you can see how important And I encourage you, if you have the Wonderland that dear Miss Claudia is been talking about, or if you have it in your house, or we have it with children, read it again, because it's a wonderful story. Abdul Baha states that the light mentioned in this verse is the divine light. This is the light by which Moses was enabled to see and comprehend the divine appearance and to hear the heavenly voice which spoke to him from the burning bush. And His Holiness Abdul Baha also mentions in the tablets of Divine Plan that the propagation and teaching of the cause of Baha'u'llah is the realization of this verse of the Quran. So this verse of bringing light to the world, right? And bringing light to the world is the realization of the verse. Okay. So in the second context of this light, alluding to himself, the Blessed Bab states, I am the flame. The flame, this is the second context now, the second analogy. I am the flame of that supernal light that glowed upon Sinai in the gladsome spot and lay concealed in the midst of the burning bush. There are a number of references to the burning bush, and I didn't want to overwhelm the class again. So I don't know how many I've included or not included in this study. So I just going to state that as this term is symbolizing the dawning place of the revelation and has its roots in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, as God known as Yahweh or Jehovah in Hebrew appeared to the 80-year-old Moses on Mount Sinai. And he commanded him to go back to Egypt and deliver his people from their bondage. So if you are reaching that elderly age and you're like, oh, I'm tired, I don't, what can I do? I feel my bones are aching. Remember Moses, he was 80-year-old and he just got his mission to go free all the Jews. So what are you doing, So, and you can't go on he was a manifestation of God, Come on. He still had the human faculties and he was an individual like anyone else. So he was obedient, even and at age of 80, he got his mission to go and, as they say, let my people go, So, all right. Oh, my chubby fingers. Let me previous. Okay, there we go. So the Bible describes the event as follows. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord said that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here am I. And he said, draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. So here, this is the most great essence, right? The most great spirit communicating with the physical reality of Moses in that sense, right? And so he's, in that sense, this is the burning bush is symbolic of the most great spirit communicating with Moses. And this is, he says, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid. It was actually really hard to find a picture of the burning bush without Moses in it, because as I never want to have a picture of a manifestation of God in it out of respect, you know. So, you know, this is, I mean, how many pictures there are of Moses, of Jesus. As a Baha'i, we should not even, because as Baha'is, we don't have pictures of His Holiness Baha'u'llah or the Blessed Bab. So just like that, because they're manifestations of God, we shouldn't have, you know, effigies or pictures also in our presentations or anything also of the other manifestations of God in their own right, because they're manifestations of God. So yeah, so when I was trying to do a picture of the burning bush, it's quite hard not to find one with Moses, you know, or holding the tablets or whatever, or in awe. So I was actually quite happy to find one, because they all have pretty much have Moses there, or their physical depiction of what Moses looked like, obviously.
But you know, for your information, that in Ethiopia, that we have the original 10 commandments that during the time of the Moses, they took it to Jerusalem from Jewish, and then they bring it back to Ethiopia, and now it's a tourist section over there, and no one can go in and visit over there. There are the monks over there, stationed over there. They have a big book with a laser, and then they are praying first. After they pray, you have to follow them, but otherwise no one can go over there. There is a light that spark on you. It's so hard. So we have that, the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia. That's why, because a lot of people, they go over there. It's in the history.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I don't know, dear Tesfa. You may be much more knowledgeable on this one.
No,
Than I am.
I'm telling you, because I see over there, and then the people going over there. So if you Google, maybe you can find that the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia. Go Google, you will see it.
And all of these ancient artifacts, you know, I leave it to Indiana Jones and these ones to find these things, because these kind of things are so ancient, we don't know authentically. You know, that's why we leave it to archaeologists to resurrect and see if they are that or not, because there's so many, per se, individuals that are trying to profiteer off individuals' religious predilections. And so they say this is the Turin of where Christ, you know, the blood of Christ, or when he put his face, or when he cleaned. How do we know? How does humanity know? Or, you know, but people being, you know, devout, they say, oh, yes. And they worship that. I mean, look at the great statue in St. Peter's Basilica and they of St. Peter. How many millions of people probably have gone and kissed the toes of this statue, that the toes have worn off just from the kissing of this toes, you know? That is an incredible thing. I mean, the devoutness of people is unbelievable. And but in the sense you're saying that was the Ark of the Covenant, who knows? You know, we don't know. It could have been much smaller. It might have been a small casket, or it could have been, we don't know the scale and scope. And people, and then there's drawings of it being an elaborate golden sarcophagus, like how it is in Indiana Jones, the first one, you know? And we have the actual record of these things is very, very spotty, my dear Tesfaye. And it has been hyped up throughout the history of religious tradition to create stories as well as to create faith. Because when you have stories, you create faith and belief. And so,
yeah, you're right about it. But you know, the thing is to be a lot of archaeologists over there and scientists to say go over there and they dig, and there's the first human remain in the world is also found in Ethiopia. And then that's Lucy. They've been here also in the museum. They've been showing over there in America, and then I think they took it back, I think. And then there are a lot of things going on over there in Ethiopia. So they know
Sure.
that. And then when you go to the website, and you can see a lot of things over there. And then sometimes I myself, I don't believe it over there. It's to be on the mountain. They put everything is to be in the mountain over there in the northern part of the western part. So it is amazing.
Excellent. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much, my dear friends. We're at 8:35, a few minutes over. Next week, we'll finish this last few slides up of covering up this section of the Blessed Bob. I hope this gave you a flavor tonight of the awesomeness of the revelation, the intensity of the revelation of the Blessed Bob. And then we will now enter into our next section next week, covering Sirullah, the mystery of God, the center of the covenant, His Holiness Abdul Baha. And so your reading, your homework will be entering into the next section, okay? So I will send you your homework assignments covering into your next section, His Holiness Abdul Baha. So dear friends, I hope you've enjoyed tonight. And dear friends, let us have a closing prayer, and then we can all say good night. Thank you so much to every one of you. Thank you.
Let me do the prayer for you.
Any one of you, dear friends.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
let me
Thank you.
see. I got some here. Vouchsafe unto me, O my God, the full measure of thy love and thy good pleasure, and through the attractions of thy resplendent light, enrapture our hearts. O thou who art the supreme evidence and the all glorified, send down upon me as a token of thy grace, thy vitalizing breezes throughout the daytime and in the night season, O Lord of bounty. No deed have I done, O my God, to merit beholding thy face, and I know with a certainty that were I to live as long as the world lasts, I would fail to accomplish any deed such as to deserve this favor, inasmuch as the station of a servant shall ever fall short of access to thy holy precincts, unless thy bounty should reach me, and thy tender mercy pervade me, and thy loving kindness encompass me. All praise be unto thee, O thou besides whom there is none other God. Graciously enable me to ascend unto thee, to be granted the honor of dwelling in thy nearness, and to have communion with thee alone. No God is there but thee. Indeed, should thou desire to confer blessing upon a servant, thou would blot out from the realm of his heart every mention or disposition, except thine own mention. And should thou ordain evil for a servant, by a reason of that which his hands have unjustly wrought before thy face, thou would taste him with the benefits of this world and of the next, that he might become preoccupied therewith and forget thy remembrance. Sabah.
Thank
It's a
you so
beautiful
much
prayer.
for your testify. Thank you. Beautiful,
Yeah, it's a
beautiful.
beautiful one. I love it,
Thank
that
you.
one. So I might go in vacation after next week for 1 month and 10 days, I believe. So going to Ethiopia. So I might go teach the faith, and then so in the meantime also visit families and the land and the people.
Beautiful,
might-
dear Tesfaye. Hope you have
Yeah.
lots and lots of fun and great trip. And we'll
Yeah,
see you when
I'm
you
going
get
to
back.
miss you. So, but next week I will be here. So next session, but after
I-
next week, I will
I
go.
expect you to catch up, dear Tesfaye, from the recordings.
Oh my Lord! Oh, I'm sorry. You
Okay.
want to delete that?
Have a
Okay.
wonderful night to every one of you.
All right. Have a wonderful
Thank
night.
you so much.
So
Thank
much.
you so much.
All
Yes,
right.
aloha.
Allah.
Allah